Welcome back to the Freedom Equation podcast. Today, I'm going to host a little bit because you're who I'm interviewing.
Oh my gosh.
So you may be watching this episode. Maybe you know Michaela, maybe you don't. But what we're doing in these 2 episodes is just getting a feel for who we are, how we got to where we're at today, why we're even doing this podcast together, to give you some context. We're calling these the context episodes. So if you randomly came across some other previous episode or whatever it is, you can say, who is this person and why are they talking? This is why. So this is Michaela Bell.
Hello, everybody.
Michaela Bell, what do you do?
Oh, man. Well, just like you, I don't know if you watched your episode. We kind of both wear quite a few hats.
Yes.
My biggest priority in my life is my daughter. I'm a single mom to a really, really cool kid.
She's an awesome kid.
She's a really awesome kid. Yeah, she's 11. She's probably a better speaker.
She's awesome.
And then I am better, probably future author. But yeah, I wear quite a few hats. I have a couple online courses, and they're mostly focused on helping single women embrace their current season of life. But I've started to grow that to significantly wider of an audience. I have a life group curriculum that's in colleges and churches across the United States. And I also help other people write their curriculum and oversee the production of their courses as well. So a little bit of an agency that I feel like, creative agency that I'm slightly starting to build. I have a couple of journals that are out. I'm currently writing my first book.
What's it about?
I finally decided on a title.
Well, you can't give it out here.
You can't?
Can you?
I don't know.
What if you change it?
That's true.
What's the book about?
So pretty much it's about some of what my courses are, essentially what I wish I would have known about relationships and marriage before I ever got in one, and what I wish I would have done in my single season. And then too, a lot about how culture, I feel like, has made us desire marriage in a way, but doesn't prepare people for what marriage actually is. And
Sounds
so
a lot like business.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship, doesn't it?
It's so true. It's so true.
It has
like
this glamour around it.
Yeah.
And yet there's not an entrepreneur school.
There's really not. Yeah.
Welcome to it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's kind of what the book is going to be about. Everything that I learned through me feeling like I sucked at relationships.
Well, what I've always appreciated about you is that you're always, and I think why we get along well, is that you're always looking to improve and get better. That's just how, and I think that's how people should be. But it's something I've always seen, and now you're just using kind of your learnings. Most of what you teach, I imagine, is probably because you went through it the hard way.
Yes.
It's not because you're just saying, listen to me because I know everything. It's like, no, I don't want you to make the same mistakes or whatever, whether mistakes or just learn. People are learning from what you learn from.
Exactly. It's kind of like I feel as though I'm further down a path and I'm on this journey and I'm like, oh, shoot, there's an accident on 22. I kind of want to tell the people behind me.
Yeah.
Avoid
22 is a really terrible highway that we live near that basically has traffic at all times. People are like
76 if you're in Philly, think of that highway. Yeah. So that's really what I desire. I love to learn. I'm definitely a learner. I read a ton of books. I'm definitely a dork in a lot of ways. Like, I love to read neuroscience research papers.
To just understand the brain?
Yeah, I really just find the brain really fascinating. And as much as I'm a creative person, I'm also super logical. Like, my mom used to tell me, like, what you think about, you bring about. And I'm like, there's no science to that. Like, what are you talking about? If I think I want to be a millionaire, I'm not a millionaire. So, that doesn't make any sense. So I really enjoy learning the logical side of how the body works, how the brain works, so that I can kind of combine it with personal development. So I love that where spirituality and science and personal development kind of mix. I'm right in the middle of all of that. Yeah. So, and awesome. I love teaching. Yep. I love teaching.
Yep. Well, what's cool about, this conversation and why we're doing this together is this podcast is about freedom. It's about, it's called the Freedom Equation, because what we're trying to do is get people to see that obviously there's more to life than work, but also 100%. that the pursuit of freedom looks different and is different for each person. So when you think of freedom in life, what does that actually mean? What does ideal freedom look like? And you probably, like me, went through a time where you thought you had that, but you didn't. And then you kind of are rediscovering what that actually looks like. So what does it mean? Like, define that in your life.
Yeah. So I feel like visually what it feels like and looks like for me, freedom would be the ability to take off large chunks of time and my business still fully function as if I wasn't off. I have a huge goal. We talked about this the other day, like huge, of one day, like owning a house in Italy and being able to take off 2 months out of the year where my kids are like fully immersed in a culture, know the language, and have all these cool experiences in life. And that I've created a business that is still impactful, even if I'm not at my desk doing something. So that for me is like the ultimate goal.
But you don't have the house in Italy yet?
Not quite yet.
Okay, we're getting there.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get my dual citizenship.
Oh, look, you're starting. See, baby steps.
Baby steps for sure. Because like if you have your dual citizenship, it's so much, there's a lot of red tape that you like jump over when you're actually a citizen. And then you can give your kid that, and then she can travel to like 27 European countries with no problems.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so when I think of the journeys that we both have kind of gone through as entrepreneurs, we were talking about this kind of off camera too, how there's this perception that when you own your own business, you get all the freedom in the world. And I think we both have gone through that reality doesn't exist. And so how do you see that now? And how are you finally starting to realize that you have to intentionally set things up to have that opportunity? You can't take 12 weeks away or 3 months away, 2 months away in Italy without having stuff happening to keep making money.
Yes.
So like how are you trying to set that up? What does that look like to you?
Well, mostly it's different systems. And so even let's look at a really practical example of this. So I created a course. It's a 6-week group coaching course where women would, like, every week there's a module that opens. They watch it on their own time. And then we have a group coaching call where I coach them through their actual questions. So now I'm getting ready to change that and make it what's called evergreen. So there will be, and I'm mostly probably going to do that through YouTube ads of like speaking to a person who's single and frustrated with her season of life, right? Maybe she takes a master class and then has the opportunity to take it as an evergreen course. So that's like one, I think, practical example of figuring out, okay, so here's a product that is super effective, but requires a lot of me. How can I make it where it is also impactful to the student, but doesn't require as much of me? So I'm creating a workbook that sort of takes my place, teaches them the activities that I would normally teach on the group coaching platform, and having it like all kind of come together. So that's, I feel like, one practical of me trying to figure out how can I still have this be impactful, because that's a priority of mine. And then also, how can it be something where my time is more so on the front end and not in the continuum?
And I think that's one of the hardest things for just personal brands to figure out how to scale themselves, but yet they're the only person that can be them. So it's like trying to have, let's call them products. You can be in certain places, but you can only be in one place at a time. So it's like that has its own price tag versus what can you do that still has impact, right? So it's like, and that's part of the system side of understanding that you don't simply get 12 weeks by just being your own brand and having nothing other than speaking or whatever. You may love that, but it's like that's I think what we really relate to now is this idea of trying to actually really have freedom and not just say it.
Yeah. And one thing I've noticed about myself, and I think this is a huge key of learning how to be efficient and effective in your work, has a lot to do with how you are wired. So one thing I've noticed is I'm a sprinter, not a marathon runner, meaning I love projects. Like even when I've created journals or like 200-page workbooks, right? I love that. Like, I love diving into the creative, working with a graphic designer, like seeing that come to life. I love that. And then I really enjoy taking a break after it.
Yeah.
Whereas opposed to some people are marathon runners. Like, they like the daily kind of thing. Whereas that's what I've recently found out about myself. I'm a sprinter.
Totally relate. Yep. And understanding that is great. And because then you can actually put that into practice and realize I don't necessarily need to change everything I'm doing. It's just I need to do it in increments.
Yes.
It's not that you hate, because there are certain things everyone loves doing for a short amount of time. But then what happens is sometimes they get tired of it and they're like, I guess I got to start something new.
Right.
And maybe it's just that you realize there's a cap.
Shift. Yeah.
And so, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs are that way. They actually want to do a lot of different things.
Yes.
But then they find out quickly that they can't like do it all.
Yeah.
So like that systems thing is super huge.
Yep.
That's really cool. So when you think about even this podcast as an example, obviously impact's a big thing to you. Like what are you hoping people can gain from hearing and just being on this podcast journey with us?
I think one thing I'm definitely passionate about is trying to help people avoid some of the mistakes that I've made that have cost me. So I think that you can learn from instruction or you can learn from experience. And sometimes experience is painful and it doesn't need to be. Like, you could learn from instruction as opposed to going through that. So if there's anything that I feel like we're going to do on here, it's going to be to help people avoid some of the pitfalls that we've kind of created for ourselves or fell into. So definitely that is helping people with the instruction side of things. And then also I think to connection. I really want to be able to, like, for people that respond on these episodes of like what you want to see, we want to be able to tailor this to you. So I think that's going to be exciting to do.
When you think about some of the failures in this approach that you've talked about with freedom and all that, what have been some of the biggest learning things that maybe will turn into obviously their own episodes and all that moving forward, but some big learnings that you've kind of had? Anything come to mind? Throwing you right in the spot there.
Yeah. So the first thing that comes to my mind is I recently had a launch fail, and it's never failed before. And I did the same thing that I've always been doing. And what I realized is that, okay, I had to pause and think, well, number one, is there anything that I did differently? Which I kind of realized I didn't, but that the people are changing a little bit. I mean, there's a lot of courses out there and a lot of people are doing the exact same thing. And so I was finding that I just needed to shift. So I think in failing in that launch, I realized the same thing might not always work forever, and that it's really important to make shifts in business. So if you find something that works for you, don't be shocked if it doesn't work forever, and you might need to shift.
And ride the wave when it's working.
Yeah.
If it's working, go all in while it's working as much as possible.
Yes.
But also be okay that when it changes, it only changes because something else took its place. Social media, the same exact way. The only reason something stops getting eyeballs is because eyeballs go somewhere else. So it's like, same thing. It's like, ride the wave as much as possible, but then be okay. Shifting.
Be okay with shifting. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you think of like efficiency now in your life, what is an efficiency hack right now that you feel like has been a game changer for you? I hate that word game changer, but like it's been a pivotal part.
I would say the number one thing is probably working on my internal triggers, which for me has been confidence. That I think I've always had the ability to do certain things in business, but now I have the confidence to just make steps. I used to be so afraid of like the outcome and be so attached to the outcome that I was afraid to take the first step. And now I feel like that I've been in business for a little bit, and even just personally the work that I've done in therapy and like having a life coach myself, like all of those things, and like being spiritually led, I trust myself to make the next first step. And I don't have to see or like be super attached to some outcome in order for me to do that. So I think that has been the thing that has helped me the most be efficient is I trust myself.
Now, is it that you think, do you feel like it's because you now are okay, getting better at being okay with failure?
Yes.
Rather than trusting yourself in it?
Yeah, well, I think
you're okay taking the step knowing that even if it's not exact step
yeah.
Do you think that is that kind of playing a factor?
For sure. Yeah, because failure to me is just part of the process now as opposed to like the end of the road.
Right.
And I think that because I'm confident in I've realized in business that my gut is pretty spot on. Even if, like, I don't need everybody else to tell me
right.
what's right and what to do now, because I'm like, oh, I think I really had a feeling that was going to be the thing.
And you look back and say, yeah, that was that gut was right, that instinct was right. So you start to build your own credibility to yourself. You start to trust yourself.
I think that is
like, I've made some decisions that were correct.
Yeah, a huge piece of the puzzle is learning how to trust yourself, because we all have intuition and gut feelings. So if you think about even times in my life, even relationally, where I knew in my gut, this is not my person, but I just wanted to be in a relationship, or I thought I was supposed to be at this stage at this age, right? So like learning how to let the expectations of every society, myself, family, all that stuff melt away and just really listen to, no, I think this is the right next step. But that makes me efficient.
Yeah. Yeah. And you learn, you do that from learning. Like you
100%.
You start to understand yourself and start to understand when to go with your gut, when not to, by going with it when you shouldn't have, and vice versa. Like it's, you only get that from learning. And that's why, you get your own coaching and you have your own mentors and people that you go to, because it's so important. It's like, we're not doing this podcast just because we think we're the smartest people in the world. We're trying to help because we know that there are people that have gone through phases that we've gone through, that we can hopefully be inspiration. But we're also always seeking coaching and seeking people that can continue to help us as well.
Yes.
Because that's a pivotal part.
Yep.
You never ever, every single year that goes by, I don't know about you, but I'm like, man, I must have sounded so stupid the way that I used to talk about that, like I knew what I was talking about. But you didn't know that when you didn't know it.
Yeah.
You only know what you know.
Yep.
And so I'm becoming better and better at being okay with wanting to realize I still have so much to learn.
Yes.
And that's how you make better decisions.
Yes.
That's how you stop going with your gut on certain things if your gut's telling you not to.
Yep.
It's all part of it. So we've known each other now for, I don't know.
Oh my gosh.
10, 15 years?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly how long, but
it was at church.
We met at church because I was leading worship and singing. Yep. And I knew you sung, but I think it was actually before that though, wasn't it? No, I know how it was.
What?
I filmed weddings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And you were a makeup artist.
Yes, that's right, at Lindsay. That was your second?
My second wedding ever at that company back in 2012, 11, 12, something.
Yeah.
You were a makeup artist.
Yep.
At the wedding, and I think that's how we first talked.
Yes.
And then I think we had some sort of other connection.
Yeah, and then I started, because I remember I started singing. I can't remember if it was you that asked me to join the worship team. And then one girl was leading a song, but she wasn't there that day for practice. And so I sang it. I
don't remember where it started. I think, I don't remember when it was. But we've been through like a lot. Like that's part of we worked together. Yep. We've entrepreneured together.
Yep.
I always call you, like, I feel like you're partially like my counselor, because I always feel like I was just like having I call them therapy sessions, because I was just like having conversations to just brainstorm.
Yes.
We like brainstorming.
We do.
But we both also realize where we're at, that we sometimes are good at brainstorming, but we sometimes need help for people to execute the certain things.
But I do think that we are both pretty good executors.
We
especially
are.
when
we are when we
Have to.
Have to. I was gonna say that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
really when we have to put our foot to
Put
the
our
pedal, we
back
do it.
against the wall.
But sometimes, or at least with me, there's sometimes so many ideas that it's sometimes hard to actually decide which one I'm going to execute on.
Yes.
I think that's probably what it's harder for me.
Yeah. Because I think we're good at helping one another be like, yeah, you should probably execute this one.
Yeah.
Like, great idea, great concept, maybe back.
And that's kind of why I think that this, how we got connected with wanting to do this again for about a year or so. We did my company's podcast, the Scaling Creative Podcast, which was much more focused on business and just businesses and all that. But I think that's we always had good conversations because we have similar personalities that we kind of think certain things, but we both have weird ways to like level each other out in certain conversations.
Yes, for sure.
So it's interesting how God always weaves the people in your life are so perfectly weaved in somehow. You don't always know why.
And even when you think about weaving, because I've not that we've been like in and out of each other's lives, but like, in 2020 everything changed with business and then I was let go and even but like it's just the in and out. Like, I think it's a really kind of
what I remember even saying when you worked for me. I remember even saying, I ideally don't think that you're not good working for someone like because I know your wirings because we're similar.
He's like, you're not a 9-to-5er.
Yeah,
I'm not.
and you're not, and I knew that, and that's why I always wanted to obviously get connected and have you work with me because I knew you were similar. But then I quickly realized, and what I'm learning is that certain people aren't really great in the environment of like they're better off doing their own thing, and it's just impossible to pull people in. So even though you were able to execute other things, it's just like the wirings of people. I'm learning more and more. Understanding people's wirings is crucial.
So crucial. And even that in 2020, when I left Scaling Creative and like 4LC Studios was kind of being dissolved, it forced me to. I went home that day. And I remember because I had this like office that I was never in, so it was kind of a mess and boxes everywhere. And I took a blank piece of paper and I asked myself the question, which I haven't asked myself maybe ever, is what have I always wanted to do but never had the courage to try? And I wrote down, create an online course and maybe write a book, start a podcast, start a YouTube channel. And that forced me to, I wrote my course, The Savvy Single. I started the podcast, which has done really well. It hit like the top 100 in the first week that I released it. And I'm writing the book right now. And I launched my YouTube channel on January 24th. So it's like.
So what do you feel like allowed you to actually take the idea? A lot of people will write down what they've always wanted to do. Like, what made you actually just do it? Like you said, you got the courage to do it. Like, was there something that inspired you to do? Was it just, how did you take the very first step?
Partially it was, one, I learned a lot when I worked for you. So I don't think that I would have ever had the courage maybe to do it had I not worked for you.
See, God leaves those little things. I love it. So good.
And what I've realized too is that every single job that you have or relationship that you're in, it's a stepping stone to the next thing. And we usually say like, oh, this is the thing. But I try to not think that anymore. I'm like, this is just my journey. This is just the next step. And I'm open to whatever the next one is. So I think that for me, I was in that mindset of, I'm just going to try. Because if I don't like doing the podcast, well, I can just stop. Or if I, start writing a book and it doesn't do well, like that's okay. It might lead me to whatever the next thing is.
It's way better than the what if.
Yes. Like I didn't want to, I was sick and tired of saying, I wish I would have tried. So I just had this mindset of, what if I try?
Yeah.
Like what's the worst that could happen?
The worst that could happen is it fails miserably, and at least then you can close off the chapter.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, cool, I did it. I tried it. It's all good.
Actually, I wish some of the things would fail more often so that I could just get them out of my head quickly instead of them just lingering as ideas of there's, because, we live in a world of potential. That potentially could be. I hate that world sometimes because I can never stop.
Awful. Yes. Yeah.
So, it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, it is cool. So thanks.
Yeah. Well, look at this. Look where we're at.
Look at us now.
Hey, how about that? Well, I'm excited for this journey.
I'm excited too.
And we're excited to have you along. And this, like she said, this is also about community. This is about getting to know each one of you that's listening to this, or if you're watching this on YouTube, comment, DM us, whatever it is. We want to obviously make this a valuable resource for you and continue to help in your journey. And we're a bunch of entrepreneurs that are figuring things out in real time too. So, so keep listening, keep watching. Appreciate you being here. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. Bye, guys.